You ask me, whether I approve of violence. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all. Whether I approve of guns. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Some very, very good friends of mine were killed by bombs that were planted by racists. I remember from the time I was very small, I remember the sounds of bombs exploding across the street, our house shaking. I remember my father having to have guns at his disposal at all times because of the fact that at any moment we might expect to be attacked. The man who was at that time in complete control of the city government, his name was Bull Connor, would often get on the radio and make statements like, niggers have moved into a white neighborhood, we better expect some bloodshed tonight. And sure enough, there would be bloodshed. After the 4 young girls who lived, one of them lived next door to me. I was very good friends with the sister of another one. My sister was very good friends with all 3 of them. My mother taught one of them in her class. My mother, in fact, when the bombing occurred, one of the mothers of one of the young girls called my mother and said, can you take me down to the church to pick up Carol? We heard about the bombing and I don't have my car. And they went down, and what did they find? They found limbs and heads strewn all over the place. And then after that, in my neighborhood, all of the men organized themselves into an armed patrol. They had to take their guns and patrol our community every night because they did not want that to happen again. I mean, that's why when someone asks me about violence, I just find it incredible. Because what it means is that the person who's asking that question has absolutely no idea what black people have gone through, what black people have experienced in this country since the time the first black person was kidnapped from the shores of Africa.
Hey y'all, and happy Black History Month. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Katousha, and I just want to talk today about the incredible, incomparable Angela Davis. Angela Davis was born January 26, 1944 in Birmingham, Alabama. She grew up in a neighborhood infamously called Dynamite Hill due to the amount of bombings that the KKK perpetrated on black homes in the neighborhood. Davis's mother, Sally, was an active member of the NAACP, and in her earliest experiences with community organization, Davis used to organize interracial study groups. Now, besides the KKK, even the local police, who were, of course, upholding the Jim Crow laws of the segregated South, did not really like these interracial study groups, and they would be broken up all the time. Davis was only a teenager at the time, and this only foreshadowed her wonderfully rebellious future. Davis studied philosophy in Massachusetts, and then she moved to San Diego as a graduate student. She was associated with many black nationalists and civil rights groups, such as the Black Panther Party, and most closely, she was involved with the Che Lumumba Club. It was a black chapter of the Communist Party that was named for Che Guevara and Patrice Lumumba. Once her membership in the Communist Party was discovered, Davis was actually fired from a teaching job at UCLA. She sued the school in 1969 and regained her position because the judge decided that the Board of Regents could not simply let her go because of her communist affiliation. This was not only a loss for the Board of Regents at UCLA, but it was also a loss for California Governor Ronald Reagan, who had publicly supported the board's decision to let Davis go. At the time, he was taking a strong stance, just like most members of government were taking a strong stand against not only communism, but black nationalism. And Angela Davis was unapologetic in her representation of both at the time. She never hid anything that she believed in and was always outspoken about causes that were close to her heart. So in 1970, it was no secret that Angela Davis was a supporter of the Soledad brothers. Now, the Soledad brothers were not actually brothers. They were 3 men who were prisoners at the Soledad prison. There had been an incident in January of that year in which 3 black inmates were killed by a white prison guard. The circumstances under which the prison guard killed the inmates seemed to be unjust. So the prison was dragging its feet and starting an investigation. The inmates actually staged a hunger strike, and this is what prompted an investigation into the killing of those 3 black inmates. However, no black witnesses were ever called to testify, and of course, the prison guard's actions were ruled justifiable homicide. 30 minutes after the inmates heard the ruling over the radio, the prison guard was beaten and thrown from the 3rd floor of the prison. He died, and 3 inmates, known as the Soledad brothers, were charged with his murder. Angela Davis was rumored to be romantically involved with one of these inmates, George Jackson. One day, during the trial of George Jackson and the other 2 Soledad brothers, Jackson's brother Jonathan attempted a doomed escape plan. He stormed the courtroom heavily armed, and he armed his brother George and the other 2 inmates. He also took the judge, the prosecutor, and 3 female jurors as hostages. As he attempted to flee the scene in his vehicle with his hostages, the police started to shoot at the vehicle and ended up killing 3 black men and the judge. The prosecutor and one of the jurors was also injured in the shooting. Angela Davis happened to own several of the guns that were used in this escape attempt, and so even though she wasn't there, the police and the government took this as an opportunity to charge her with aggravated kidnapping and first-degree murder. A warrant was issued for her arrest, and Angela Davis went on the run immediately, fleeing California. She would sleep on friends' couches, and she would only make moves at night. She was placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted criminals list by the infamous racist J. Edgar Hoover. Davis was found 2 months later in New York City. She had shaved off her famous afro. She was now donning a pixie cut, but she was still recognizable because of the distinctive gap in her teeth. Davis maintained her innocence from the beginning. She said she never even knew of the escape plan. President Richard Nixon, of course, congratulated J. Edgar Hoover on his arrest. They had been waiting for years for the opportunity to see Angela Davis behind bars. What they didn't expect, however, is that although her first case, fighting for her right to be able to teach at the University of California, had gained her national attention, this case actually gained her international attention. She gained support from all over the world. Over 200 communities began organizing the Free Angela Davis movement. A dairy farmer from Fresno, California paid her $100,000 bond, and the Presbyterian Church of the United States helped her to pay some of her legal fees. The Beatles were one of many that wrote songs and poetry about Angela Davis. She was blessed with a great legal team, and in 1972, in June, she was found not guilty by an all-white jury. They had to agree that the fact that she simply owned the guns was not enough to prove that she had a hand in the escape attempt. After Davis was released, she went on a speaking tour around the world. She left the Communist Party in 1991 after the Soviet coup attempt, which led to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Since then, Davis has continued her long career in activism, opposing racism, sexism, and supporting gay rights. She's given special attention to abolishing the U.S. prison system and was one of the founders of Critical Resistance, an organization dedicated to the cause. Davis has written several books and received countless awards and honors. She continues to be a hero, not only to me personally, but to all Black women, men, and youth. We can be intellectually militant and fight and win. Sometimes the history of Blacks in the America can make one feel so hopeless, as if our efforts are for nothing. But the Bible says that faith is what overcomes this world. You have to believe in yourself, in your rights, in your God. He will protect you. When you are in the right, when you are seeking justice, not only for yourself, but for other people, God will protect you. Speak out. Don't let anybody stop you from speaking on things that you believe need to be said. If God has put it on your heart to speak out about them, and God has given you the platform from which you can speak about them, it's your responsibility to do so. That's just my little thoughts, you guys. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. If you guys appreciated this video, please share it with somebody before the month is over. But always keep in mind that Black history is every single day. Thanks, you guys.